about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Play your goals, live out your dreams.
So we went down that path of the mind, which is something that was distinguished by John Locke back in the 17th century. And after he distinguished that, there's been a lot of work in the 21st century on the gut. And so then we brought in the mind and the gut as two places we should look when we think about consciousness, about this thing that makes us human, right? But then I had to go back to ancient Kemet and say, okay, have we always been thinking about, our consciousness from the framework of brain or mind and gut? The answer is no, because at one point it was the heart. So then I said, okay, so then if I'm going to practice good self-love around my consciousness, around my humanity as an individual, then there's three things that I should be guarding, safeguarding. One is my mind, right? And we talked about that at length last week. Didn't fully complete it, but I think we did a good job. And then the other is my heart. And then last but not least is my gut, right? So last week we talked about the mind and the heart and psychological and emotional safety. And this week we'll talk about guarding the gut. Now, I have a series of phenomenal questions for Dr. Prince, and as soon as he gets in the studio, we'll get him settled, and we'll start the interview. But I want to set the tone for what you're going to hear today, because I've done a lot of research already. I think it's pretty clear for most of us that when it comes to what really matters in our lives, in our health, in our relationships, with our money, and even with our spirituality, that the traditional settings of how things are set up in our society today, they have not taught us what they need to teach us, okay? So when it comes to money, right? I mean, think about all the courses we take in school, and there's very little focus on financial clarity. There's very little focus on how to manage that money, how to build the money, how to invest the money. And so most of us go 12 years, like if you're just talking about K through 12, we go 12 years, and we don't learn anything about money, but money becomes one of the most important commodities, important tools that we use. Good morning, brother.
Good morning. Can you hear me now? Testing 1, 2, testing.
Yes. So, man, good to have you in the studio this morning. And real quick, I just want to say a few things. You tell me if it's true or false. But Dr. Prince, you went to school to be a naturopath, correct?
Yes. Well, actually, I went to school initially to be a chemical engineer. Okay. And then I switched into psychology. And then once I left college, I went into emergency medicine.
Okay.
So my intentions and plans were to become an actual medical doctor. But I spent some time. I worked in the ER over at University of Chicago. I worked in the ER over at out in Edgewater Hospital, which is up north. Mm-hmm. So I actually do have some emergency medicine experience.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That's how really a lot of this stuff began in emergency medicine. Because as we all thought that, coming into this system, we're all born into the same system.
Right.
But what I realized is that as a emergency medicine practitioner, I even worked with, my brother, Dr. Ian Smith, when he was going through his residency over at University of Chicago. And I was working with the pediatric trauma team over at Bernard Mitchell and Wireless Hospital, which is the children's hospital over there. So I saw the whole emergency medical industry and what it does. And true enough, I mean, there's a lot going on in the medical, and they do a good job over there at what they do, but they're more into crisis management than disease prevention.
Got you.
And it took me a while to figure that out, but I got burned out because I was dealing with a lot of emergencies, and what they didn't tell me is that I would lose more people than I would actually be able to save.
What would you say, in your experience, had them so far into disease progression, right? Because just for me, when I hear you say that, I think to myself, well, I mean, if I had a disease, I would know I had the disease, so then I would begin to do work to either one, prevent it from, moving forward, or cure it in some way.
Exactly.
And so what did you notice as the reason for why these diseases have progressed so far?
Well, actually, it starts with our upbringing. Believe it or not, unfortunately, our parents, the diet that they gave us was not conducive for good health. It was not conducive for long life. And so what we're experiencing now is that as we get older, we're looking back on how we were brought up, what we were eating when we were brought up. And most of us, as I was brought up eating beef, pork, chicken, turkey, a lot of the heavier meats, right?
Yep. That's what we do. And
don't get me wrong, when they cooked it, when Grandma cooked it or Mom cooked it, it tastes great.
Oh, man, yeah. To this day, I mean, if I smell smothered chicken, it brings back memories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I walk down the street and smell chicken, even though I'm vegan, I've been vegan since 2004. So for me, leaving the country to go to Israel and come back a vegan allowed me to now see a whole different world that my family never saw. And so had I not left here in 2004 to go to the land of Israel and spend a few weeks with a vegan community of black folks, everyone was
in Israel.
In Israel.
Was this Prince Asiel's folks?
Right. It was Damona Israel. It was the black Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah.
And from the children all the way up to the elders, everyone was vegan. And you got to remember, I'm leaving Chicago where there is death every day to go to a community where black people are not eating meat. They're not eating chicken. It was a culture shock, even though that was my culture. But that was my real culture. That was what I needed to see in order to bring that vision back to Chicago, which is what we're working on now, is a plant-based society. But obviously it's been taking years to get to that point, but I held on to that vision now. And so now I'm understanding that it was unfortunately, I hate to say this to everyone, but it's the animal protein. I got to be truthful with you. It's the animal protein that's clogging us up, and it's causing us to degenerate, get older faster, develop disease quicker, and it's causing a lot of things. Especially, it's affecting your gut biome, which is the bacteria in our gut.
So hold on, let me slow you down, Doc, because you telling us that animal protein is causing or caused most of the disease that you saw, and still is causing disease. But, I mean, how else do I fill my belly? I mean, how do I get protein? Protein is one of the most important, for human beings in terms of muscle growth, strength, nutrient, synthesization into the body. Right? Protein is important.
Right. Well, yeah, protein is important. We do need protein. We just don't need animal protein. You see? What we really need is we need plant-based protein, because plant-based protein is more compatible with the human body. Unfortunately, and I'm not going to say unfortunately, it's just how we were designed. We were never really designed to eat animal flesh. Man was not brought up on animal flesh. I mean, we eventually became meat eaters, but let's go to church for a second. And anytime I talk about Scripture, I'm talking about it from a scientific perspective. Let's take the religion out of it.
Right.
Let's look at it as a science. According to Scripture, before the Great Flood, man was not eating what? He was not eating meat.
Okay, gotcha.
How long did he live?
Oh, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Centuries.
Yeah.
It wasn't no problem. In fact, at the age of 300, they were still having babies.
Everything was working.
Everything was still working.
Right.
Well, the difference after the Great Flood, when animal was put on the table, you didn't hear about men living centuries anymore because the lifespan shortened.
80. I mean, 80 is basically what men got, 80
exactly.
years. Yeah.
Now, what was the difference between pre-flood and post-flood. Well, animal was the difference, but our bodies became more acidic.
Yeah.
We were not acidic. We were more alkaline before the flood because we were eating fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts. So the body stayed more alkaline.
But how does one stay full on that, man? I mean, you know, it's and I'm speaking for the audience right now because they're listening to you, and we're talking about guarding the gut today, and we'll dive into that more. But there's preconceived notions already. I mean, as a matter of fact, I saw a commercial where it's like they talk about getting full. Like, man, you will be satisfied, right?
Right.
So how do I get full on it? I mean, I like fruit, I mean, all that, but, you know, you telling me that that's going to be my main course?
Well, that's the conditioning. That's the training or that we have. We're conditioned to think that full is good. But it turns out that the less you eat, the longer you live. Why? Well, first off, it's about having the right nutrition in your body. When you have the right nutrition in your body, you're not even really hungry. There are people that I'm putting on what we'll talk about later is the 3-week cleanse. And it's nutrient rich, calorie poor. So they're not eating a lot of food, but they find themselves not hungry. Why are they not hungry? Because they're saturating their body with the right nutrients.
I can't even process not being hungry, though. and I mean, I can't process not being hungry, man. I mean, I'll eat a pizza at noon, right? And know I ate too much, and not me, right? But I'm speaking for the listener. Y'all know I don't eat pizza like that. All right, but for the listener, right? But I'll eat a pizza at noon, and by 5, and I know I ate too much,
right?
And by 5, I'm hungry again. So I can't process this. Let me ask you this, Doc. So, what does pizza do to the body? Like, what does a pizza do to the body? Or one of the questions that I wrote down for you, and maybe this is a good one to go to, but, you know, I saw a commercial. And this commercial said the double bacon cheeseburger has 2 quarter-pound patties and 2 slices of cheese. All right, so 2 quarter-pound patties of beef and 2 slices of cheese. Somebody right now is thinking, hallelujah, right? Hallelujah. And along with 4 strips of bacon, Doc, on 2 toasted multi-grain sesame seed buns. All right, so, and I'm not even talking about the fries and the Coke that come with that. But what does that do to the body? So maybe we can begin to process why we think about food the way we do, and even why we eat the way we do. Right? Like, what exactly would that pizza or that double bacon cheeseburger begin to do to my gut?
Well, first of all, here's the initial problem is that, you know, you're looking at a lot of calories. You're looking at a lot of sugar. You're looking
over
at
1,000 calories. Easy.
You're looking at a lot of cholesterol. I mean, just everything about it. And we all grew up eating like that. You know, we love McDonald's and all that. But the beef has a problem breaking down in the system. So it requires more energy, more enzymes from the body to break it down. And once you break it down, then now you have to get to the amino acids. So we don't need a complete protein. So a complete protein is like a chicken breast or a porterhouse steak.
Right.
But the body really only needs 9 essential amino acids from our diets. It doesn't need the complete protein, but it has to break the complete protein down to get to the amino acids. So what we really need is the amino acids in order to assimilate any protein or synthesize any protein that the body needs.
What I just heard is, so now in order for my body to get the protein from that meat, it's got to synthesize the fat. It's got to break it down. It's got to break it down, and that's going to make me tired.
Right. That's where we get the itis.
So hold on 1 second. Hold on. All right. So some of y'all are always tired. Now you know why. Now, you know, this is why I want, because they got to understand the why, right? Because some folks will call in and say, how can I have more focus, coach? How can I get more energy? And see, Dr. Prince is about to break it down for you, right? This is not magic. Like, we got to do things to gain what it is we want in our life. I want focus. I want energy. I got to do something to create those things and manifest it into my life.
Exactly.
My body is digesting this dairy, this cheese, this meat, because, you know, ain't nobody out here really getting cheese pieces, so we know that. So they, you know, you had a quarter pound, you know, of meat, or 2 quarter pounds of meat, so half a pound really of beef, or you got about half a pound on your pizza.
Exactly.
Right, broken down. So either way, they're breaking down a lot of food. They're tired. So what else is that doing to the gut?
Well, the worst thing about it, it's causing mucus buildup in the system.
So what's bad about mucus? Doesn't everybody have mucus?
Well, mucus is good, but excessive mucus is bad, because once excessive mucus get into the gastrointestinal lining, it hinders the absorption of vitamins and minerals.
Okay. The gastrointestinal lining. Break that down for me. Why does that matter?
That's basically your digestive system lining. So from your mouth to your anus is an open tract. That's why it goes through the esophagus, the stomach, small intestines, large intestines, colon, and out. That's lined with mucus. The mucus is a protective layer. It's actually one of the first lines of defense. So mucus is a part of the defense. But when you eat cooked food, because man was not brought up on, God did not create man to eat cooked food.
Okay.
He did not create man to eat meat.
Okay.
So when you eat meat, you're eating outside of the laws in which you were created. You were created to be an herbivore, not a carnivore.
Right.
A true carnivore, or even an omnivore, because some people say I'm an omnivore. I eat, I eat plant and animal.
I used to call myself a carnivore.
Right.
And I'm a Leo too, so I used to use that as part of my excuse, right? I'm a lion. I gotta have meat, right?
Right. So
yeah.
So you think about it. If we were not designed to eat meat, but yet we're eating meat, we're breaking some type of universal law, and the consequence is disease and illness.
And so how does this? So this meat, I have this gastrointestinal lining. I put this meat, this cheese, this white flour bread, into my body, into this phenomenally designed intestinal gastrial lining. And so over time, what begins to happen to this part of my body, from my mouth, all the way through my esophagus, down into my stomach, through my large intestines, my small intestines, and out into my anus? Like, what happens?
Well, besides for creating vitamin and mineral deficiency, which leads to a weakened immune system, which leads to multiple diseases, it also causes a corrosion of the gastrointestinal lining. It leads to stuff like gastritis, which is inflammation of the gastric lining, diverticulitis, which is pockets in there. It leads to what's called leaky gut. Leaky gut is a situation where there's little holes, perforations in the gastrointestinal lining. And that leads to a lot of allergies, because when you start eating different foods and it's getting through the lining and seeping into the bloodstream, then now your immune system has to address that.
Oh.
And your immune system has to remember that.
Hold on. So if I'm eating like this, what I'm hearing you say is that my immune system is not just working to guard me from things like COVID, the flu, and all this other stuff we're concerned about, but I got my immune system working on basically plugging holes in my gut and overreacting to the food I put in my body.
Exactly. And that's why when people say I have a lot of allergies to food, to different foods, it's because when the food seeps through, and when whatever we eat that seeps through those little holes and gets into the bloodstream is like a little piece of the food. So now the immune system remembers that food. So the next time you eat that food, what is the immune system going to do? It's going to say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It remembers it as an enemy because it's in the bloodstream. Not that it's an enemy anyway, but it's in the bloodstream. The immune system remembers stuff. So it's going to remember that little piece of chicken. It's going to remember that little piece of rice and any substance that we eat. So now when you eat it, you're having a reaction to it because the immune system, when it got beyond that barrier into the bloodstream, the immune system has to protect the bloodstream. So if it's food in there that's not supposed to be in there because it should be in the gut, then now when you eat these foods, you're going to have reactions to these different foods.
That's why I get hives when I eat shrimp.
Exactly.
Or that's why, I break out or I can't breathe or whatever it may happen when I have peanuts or something.
Well, here's the thing with that. Some people just have those type of, like I have a allergy to seafood and shellfish myself.
Okay.
And like my daughter Jordan, she has a allergy to peanuts. That's because her mom ate so many peanuts during her pregnancy. So that might be so. But allergies play a different role. But you can develop food intolerances. In other words, when you develop food intolerances, then that means that anything you eat actually starts causing certain reactions in your body. And when you have mucus in your system that's hindering nutrients from getting into the bloodstream, then now you have these allergies, but now you also have deficiencies that you have to deal with as well.
So I'm not getting all the nutrients I'm supposed to get. What I'm hearing from you is that is the beginning of disease?
It is, or inflammation.
Inflammation.
So that's that. With a lot of people dealing with inflammation in their body, the inflammatory response is the second line of defense for the immune system. The first line is barrier. That's your skin.
Right.
That's your mucous membrane. First line.
Okay.
As you know, if you cut your skin, that's breaking what? The first barrier.
Right.
That's why we put alcohol and we do. You say, we don't want it to get infected. We just broke the first barrier, so now we have to make sure it doesn't get affected. But if it get past that first barrier, now here comes the inflammatory response. That inflammatory response is all of the white blood cells that's coming in order to aid in protecting the body against whatever foreign has just come into the body. But here's the problem: that inflammatory response is a good response, but it can be an over-inflammatory response, which leads to a lot of conditions that actually affect the human body in a negative way. So your immune system actually can potentially affect you in a negative way, which is why we have autoimmune disease.
Got you. So let me ask you this then. So is this inflammatory response painful?
Well, it can be deadly and fatal because in 2020, it was the inflammatory response that people weren't getting past in order to get to the third line of defense, which is your acquired immune system, where you create antibodies.
Okay, so let's not go there yet. I want to stay with inflammation. Let's stay with inflammation for a moment. So inflammation, I mean, do I get, like, in any way updated about this inflammation in my body? Like, what are the indicators that I have inflammation in my body?
Well, pain is probably the main thing.
Okay, so let's stay there for a second. So I feel pain, and when I go to the doctor, I'm told, hey, 2 Tylenol and call it, hey, you feel that? Or I'm hey, you need to take some Tums. You have an indigestion, take some Tums. That'll make you feel better. Or I have my allergies. I'm told to take Claritin. Oh, you just need. I got this special. Even like sometimes they'll give you an updated. Can't get it over the counter alert. Allergy medicine. So I'm doing those type of things when I feel pain or dis-ease.
Right.
Does that hurt me at all? I mean, doesn't that, fix the situation?
Well, that's what we've been taught. We've been taught that, medication, whether it's over the counter, whether it's prescription, it eradicates. I ain't gonna say it eradicates. It subsides or mitigates the symptoms.
The symptoms.
Right. We're mitigating symptoms. All we've been doing with this healthcare system is mitigating symptoms, making them less or bringing them into a place where we can tolerate them. Here's the problem. As long as you're addressing symptoms and you never address the underlying cause of the issue, then it's like clipping the weed at the top and not pulling it up by the root. If you don't pull it up by the root, then it will keep growing. So
my grass look good only for a minute. Right? That's how that go. You know how you get the dandelions in the spring and you like, ooh, I need to handle this, and then but if you just cut it, you're like, okay, it looks nice and green. And then 2 days later, boop, I mean, because those dandelions going to come right back.
Exactly.
Right back. And so what you're saying is that it's the same thing in many ways and how medicine is used.
Exactly.
I can use it. It's like cutting the grass, getting rid of the yellow tops of the dandelions and, the white seeds. But 24 hours, 48 hours, I'm going to have to cut the grass again.
Well, that's the reason why we have to take medication again for a particular same issue, It's the reason why we multiply medication over time, because if we're always treating the effects but never the cause, guess what? The cause is progressing. So it may start off as acne in your teenage years, but the same cause.
So wait. But teenagers get acne, man. What are you talking about?
Well, that's just it. Acne is a sign of an underlying issue. But we were taught from the time we were getting acne that, hey, just get something over.
Yeah, man, that's
that
your
was
hormones.
The beginning.
Like, you growing up, look at your face. I mean, isn't that what you heard? Right. But you're saying that this is an underlying issue. It's not just my hormones. And by the way, we haven't even got here, but the gut does a lot to regulate hormones.
Exactly.
So it might be hormones, but we're getting to what you're saying is, no, it's a symptom.
Exactly. So there's an underlying cause for acne, but the same underlying cause for acne leads to cancer, leads to MS.
Wait. So acne, in many ways, could be considered. Like if I have acne right now, by the way, it's Sunday morning, somebody's in the powder mirror right now covering it up. And they're listening to you, and they probably stop and say, wait, what? Okay. Acne is an early warning symptom for cancer?
Actually, it is early. It's real early, like super early.
I mean, but that's what we want.
Right. Super early.
Yeah. I want early warnings of these type of things.
And see, here's the thing. The reason acne seems so common is because most of us as kids grew up eating a similar diet.
So let's talk about the addiction. Because, I mean, what a lot of people don't know, let's just take cheese. Cheese is incredibly addictive.
It is.
And so what about the body, even though you put cheese in it, it has a hard time processing. It causes additional mucus, obviously not good for the body. What would make the body crave something like that again?
Well, the thing about it is the dairy. We're the only species that drink the milk
of another species. Of another species, right.
But you have to think of the hormones in that, because see, the hormones for dairy is for the calf, which grows very fast in a short period of time.
Oh man.
So that growth hormone, you put that same hormone into a human being, now you have our young daughters getting their periods very early,
developing early. Yeah,
period
early.
And fast growth can lead to cancer manifestation.
That's
so
human growth hormone.
We're not supposed to grow that fast, but when we do things like ingest meat, which has hormones in it, estrogen in it. When we dairy have hormonal issues and estrogen and all. So now we're raising our hormonal levels, which is causing behavior in our bodies that's leading to disease.
So, and hormones create all types of emotions, cravings. So maybe that's part of where the addiction comes from, where it's like, I want that feeling again.
Exactly.
And if I'm not mistaken, the gut is responsible for a lot of our hormone regulation.
Well, here's the big one. Serotonin.
Let's talk
serotonin,
about it. Yeah, let's talk about
which is produced in your gut, is that what they call that happy hormone.
Right.
We love them happy hormones because it makes us feel good. Dopamine, serotonin.
And it's produced in the gut.
Well, the serotonin, right, is produced in the gut. So when we have hormonal imbalance, or shall I say when we have an imbalance in our gut microbiome, which is those microorganisms in our body, then this is one of the reasons why we find ourselves feeling anxiety or depression.
Wait. So are you telling me that my diet could be the cause for my depression?
Exactly.
Or that my diet could be the cause of my anxiety?
Exactly.
Whoa.
Well, let's think about this for a second. We're not fully human. We actually more microbiome, or we're more microorganisms or bacteria and viruses in our body than we are human. We don't realize that we have trillions of viruses in and on our body already, 400 trillion. We have more viruses in and on our body than we have bacteria. The viruses keep the bacteria in check. So your body is not a stranger to viruses. But these organisms that live in our body, they're what they call opportunistic organisms. In other words, when your body is at a certain health, these organisms don't do anything. They just sit there and they just live, and they're dormant. But as soon as your body falls into that sub-health state, or shall I say, once your body becomes acidic and toxic, then guess what happens? That's the opportunity. That's the opportunity for the organisms to come out and do their God-given job, which is to disassemble the body. In other words, just like that Duracell battery, when you first buy it, it's alkaline.
Right.
But when you throw it away, it's acidic.
That's why you have to be careful where you throw it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because your body is like that battery. We start off alkaline as babies, but when our parents start imposing this dense food upon us, it starts making our body more acidic, which starts leading to the initial cause of acne.
So by the time I'm 13 and I'm going through my hormonal changes, my body's like, man, we got to get rid of some of this acid, and it pushes it out my skin.
Which is an elimination channel.
Skin is part of the way we eliminate toxins.
Exactly. So if you're having any type of skin issues, eczema, any of that stuff, it's your body reflecting what's going on inside the body through your skin.
No, man, I got eczema because I'm black.
Because you eat chicken.
Okay. I mean, I'm just saying, because this is some of the things that we believe.
Exactly.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, we're chuckling. But what I just said, somebody was like, yeah. In Radio Land right now, they were like, yeah, Linal. And now we're laughing, and they're having a moment, because it's like, wait a second. You're telling me that the itchy skin I have, eczema, all these different, acne, skin issues, skin blotches, all these things are just indicators that something is wrong in my gut.
Exactly. In your gut. Well, here's the thing. It's what's going on in the gut. It's reflecting what's going on in the body, but it's also letting you know that you need to flush and clean out your whole system. Because the body, anytime the body becomes acidic, when you're young, there's what they call a bicarbonate system. The bicarbonate system is the first line of correcting that imbalance, and it starts to bring the body back into an alkaline state.
Okay.
Now, it's doing that effectively when you're young.
Right.
As you get older, the acid levels are starting to overtake this bicarbonate system.
It's been at war for now at this point, 17 years, 18 years, 20 years, 26 years. We're expecting we can still eat the same.
Exactly.
That's why now I'm 30, I have that Italian beef, and it's like, oh, man, I used to could do this.
Exactly.
And what I hear you saying is, yeah, you could, because your body was fighting it off and becoming alkaline again, and now it's not.
But then we was also more active.
That's why I was running. So I was letting those toxins go.
Exactly. So you were countering the acid buildup in the body when you were younger. You wasn't thinking about responsibilities.
Right.
Once you get older and you start having responsibilities, you're not running and jumping. And your boy can't come up and say, hey, can you come outside? And you go and run and play.
We talked about psychological and emotional safety last week and what stress does to the brain, right? And to our thinking, the prefrontal cortex, et cetera.
Exactly. Okay.
But what does stress do to the gut?
Well, here's the interesting thing. And let me make this connection for people. 70% of your immune system is in your gut. Now, if 70% of your immune system is in your gut, stress, any type of stress response, causes your body to shift energy and resources from your immune system, from your digestive system, to your muscles so that you can fight or flee.
Right.
So when you're in a stress response, you're releasing cortisol hormones,
right,
which is designed to get you out of a life-threatening situation. When you're in a life-threatening situation, you don't need to defend against bacteria. You don't need to defend against infection. You don't need to digest that food. You need to get out of there.
Right. I need to defend my physical body.
So the stress response is it serves us well. If you take, for instance, a gazelle being chased by a lion, when that gazelle realizes the lion is coming to get him, stress response kicks in. Fight or flight. It's fleeing. It's moving out.
Adrenaline, and it's running. It's
running.
Yeah.
And here's another part about that. A gazelle is an herbivore. If the lion doesn't catch the gazelle in a certain period of time, in a certain distance, he's not going to be able to catch him because the gazelle's endurance, because he's an herbivore, is better than the lion's endurance because he's a meat eater.
And he done laid out the analogy for y'all. He done laid it out. But that lion better be close.
That's why he has to sneak up on him.
Because he can't get into a chase with him.
Nah, he can't see him afar off and start chasing him from way back there. So it ain't gonna happen.
So you saying that meat eating heart ain't gonna be able to keep up with that plant eating heart?
It's not at all. And that's what a lot of athletes are finding out right now. That's why they're going plant based.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if you know, but I'm 52 years young, and I still run college track and field. Nice. So I compete in the 400 meters. I compete in the 200 meters. And I win my races at Division I, II, and III colleges. So even though chronologically I'm 52, chronologically, biologically, I'm in my 20s.
That's what I say, good self-love right there. That's some good self-love. That's why we got you on the show. You repping what we talking about. I
exactly. So when the run is over, when the chase is over, and the gazelle realizes that he, outran the lion, he goes back to grazing. He cuts the stress response off.
Right.
In other words, he uses it for what it's supposed to be used for, which is to get him out of that situation. Once he gets back to a calm place, cuts it off, go back to the parasympathetic response, which is the opposite of the sympathetic response. So I'm talking about the nervous system now, so I don't want to get too technical with the words, but your autonomic nervous system, that fight or flight is the sympathetic response. Your calm response is the parasympathetic. So they antagonize each other. So when the lion is through chasing him and he realizes he's not going to catch him, gazelle goes back to grazing, cuts off the fight or flight, and now he's back in relaxed mode. Not worrying weeks later if the lion is coming after him.
Right.
Human beings are living 9 to 5 in that stress response. So their body is in a state of constant release of these cortisol, harmful hormones. If you're not in a life-threatening situation, you shouldn't be that stressed out. So now we're talking about negative emotions, which now if you're weakening the immune system, because the immune system, and let me say, you got to get this part. This is important. When your cells are dealing with toxicity in the body, it goes into protection mode. So fight or flight is that protection mode. The gazelle has to protect himself from that lion. So now his body is in protection mode. So the cells retract for a time. But when you're in growth mode, the cells now start growing again, organs start regenerating again because now you're in a relaxed calm state. Man. Okay. You see where I'm going? So if you're under stress all the time, then your body can't grow. The organs can't regenerate and they deteriorate.
Wow.
You understand?
Which leads to things like cancer and disease.
Exactly. And then also what you talked about last week, when the energy shifts from that frontal lobe back to the instinctual mind.
Right.
Then now you become dumb.
So now I'm making dumb decisions.
Right, because you don't need to think during a stressful situation. And you're in life-threatening motion, you need instincts.
Right.
So a lot of people that are in jail now because instincts. They shifted. They didn't pause and proact. They reacted.
Yep.
When you react, nothing ever good comes out of it. When you learn how to proact, you're proacting not because the situation is justified. You're proacting because you want to protect your body and your biology. So you have to choose your responses. So, for instance, like, you're on your way to work.
Right.
Somebody cuts you off. What do normal people do when they get cut off? They get upset, angry. I think I might have followed a few people back in the day. Flipped a few people off.
I saw a situation yesterday on the expressway, man. They like weaving at each other. It's craziness.
And then you always hear on the news about shootings on the Dan Ryan or on the expressway.
Yeah.
That's because people are reacting. And instead of proacting, if they proacted and they put a different type of emotion in there, like maybe a positive one, Now, I say, well, why would I put a positive emotion in there when somebody just cut me off and almost caused me to have an accident? Because you're now back in control over your body and your biology.
Right.
When you allow that person to cut you off to bring you into a stress response or a negative emotion, they control you.
That's right.
You don't control yourself.
That's right.
And what does that ultimately mean? That means that maybe you're not really the self you think you are. So maybe you're loving the wrong self. Because if you're a product of your upbringing, then at what point did you put in the content to create the person you are?
Oh, so what I hear you saying is like you've been created by default.
Exactly.
You're a default product, and you're not even aware of it. You eat by default.
Exactly.
You take care of your health by default. You're navigating relationships by default.
Exactly.
Money by default, and that's why we're in the situation we're in.
Exactly. Because if you think about it, from ages 1 to 7, you're in what they call download mode.
Dr. Prince, let me just say, we're going to bring you back, brother. I like you, man. You good people. We're going to be friends. I can tell already. Good. And I want to race you. Now, you know I eat fairly well. I take care of myself, so you got to be careful, Dr. Prince. Don't put too much money on yourself.
Well, that's why it's important. That's why it's important to actually come in and get a bioscan, because what the bioscan does, it shows you exactly where you are in this disease progression process. And most people don't find out until the crisis show up in their life that there was a progression towards the crisis.
Right.
Because when we go back and forth to the doctor and we're getting our checkups every year like we normally do, we get a clean bill of health. Well, the question is, why are we getting a clean bill of health, and then a year later now there's something showing up?
Right. Man, you just told me I was good. So Dr. Prince, you do bioscans on Tuesdays?
Actually, I do them all through. So
down
in Bronzeville, I do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but out in Homewood, I do them every other day.
Okay, got you.
If you are diabetic, the first thing you need to do, and listen to, and I know it's a lot of people out there that may be diabetic, this is the first thing you need to do before even considering fruits. You need to detoxify your system in order to not be a diabetic. See, diabetes is not a common, it's not a natural thing. It's actually unnatural to be a diabetic. It's actually unnatural to have heart disease. Just because it's common doesn't make it natural.
So wait a second. You're telling Albert that he could reverse his diabetic?
Exactly. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's somebody trying to reach you for the bioscan. So you're telling Albert that he can reverse his diabetes?
I'm telling you that's exactly what you want to do. In fact, that's what God wants you to do, because he wants you to reverse it so you can be a testimony to all the other people with diabetes, so you can show them the way in which you went in order to make that happen. What I know based upon years of biofeedback is that there's a cause for the diabetes that you're experiencing, and it has to do with your pancreas dealing with inflammation.
Okay.
They call it pancreatitis. So that's inflammation. Anytime you put an itis on the end of a particular organ system, that just means inflammation in that organ. The reason I say the first stage is detoxification, because you have to, once you remove the toxic waste from the organs, it only takes your pancreas 3 months to fully regenerate. Your pancreas, in 3 months, you have a new pancreas. Every 3 months, you have a new pancreas. So you go through 4 pancreases within 1 year.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that.
So wait a second. So you're telling me if we go through 4 pancreases in 1 year, that part of the reasons we keep diabetes is because we're not addressing
the toxic waste overload.
Wow.
See, so you get a new pancreas. So like when you get new shoes, they looking good. You know, they better than the old shoes, right?
Right.
Then if we get a new pancreas, it should be better than the old pancreas, but it's not, because the factor of the accumulation of toxins in the body is dumping more waste into the pancreas, which is causing inflammation.
So this is basically soiling the new cells.
Exactly, suffocating the new cells. That's why disease can't survive in an alkaline body, but it thrives in an acidic body. Why? Because the more alkaline your body is, the more oxygen rich.
So what kind of cleanse should Albert do? Albert, did you call in to eradicate yourself of diabetes this morning, brother? I mean, I don't.
Yes.
I think
You said yes. Okay, so then what kind of cleanse should Albert do, or how can he reach out to you and get supported with, reversing his diabetic situation?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I would definitely love for you to call at the number 773-851-8756. If you got a pen, write it down or call in and get the
That's
number.
already a given. I've written that number down 3 times.
So let me tell you this. It's not theory. I've been doing this for 10 years. My mom, she'll be 80 this year. When she was in her 50s, she was overweight. She was on diabetes medication, metformin. She was on high blood pressure medication. She was on high cholesterol medication.
Wow.
She was the one that gave me my lifestyle and diet. But when I stepped away from the family, when God pulled me away to take me down the road, I got alienated from my family so that I can come back and save my family. Now at the age of 79, she's off her diabetes medication. She's off her high blood pressure medication, off her high cholesterol medication. She let go of the heavier animals, beef, pork, chicken, turkey. What am I saying? I'm saying that your success is in direct proportion to what you're willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to make that sacrifice. If you're not, then this conversation is moot. Mm-hmm. If you're willing to make the sacrifice and let go of the heavier animals, my mom's a pescatarian right now. So a pescatarian is a vegetarian that eats fish.
We're pescatarians as well.
Let me explain this.
That's a good diet, brother. I enjoy my diet.
Fish versus beef, chicken, and pork, it's two different worlds. The animals that we eat and been eating, the chicken, are warm-blooded creatures. That means that their body temperature is higher than human beings. But fish are cold-blooded. Their body temperature is lower. The difference is when we eat fish, our temperature can break down their proteins and oils. When we eat beef, pork, chicken, and turkey, our temperatures are not sufficient to break down their proteins, so it becomes sludge in our system, which now leads to excessive toxins in the body, which leads to more dumping into the pancreas. So when you detox, you're coming off the meat, you're coming off the dairy, you're coming off the cooked food, because cooked food, just like dairy, creates mucus in the body.
Wow. So what about spring water, Doc? Spring
water is neutral, and it's okay. This is what you want to be drinking. You want to be drinking alkaline water. Alkaline water, and for you, maybe start at about 8.5 and then work your way up to 9.5. The reason being is because alkaline water is ionized. When you're drinking ionized water, it's called living water because it's going into the body actively. That means it's going in and it's attaching to the waste particles and it's pulling them right on out. Regular water don't do that.
Right out. Wow.
Right. And so during the actual detoxification process, you're drinking alkaline water. The products are alkaline. The juices are alkaline. Everything is alkaline because that's what we need to do. We need to get your body out of the acidic state, bring it back into the alkaline state, and guess what? Diabetes goes away.
So Dr. Prince, what if I don't have the money to go out and get this, crate of alkaline water? Is there a way I can make it?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people will get what they call lemon, and they squeeze the lemon in the water. Right. And it may make the water alkaline, and you may drink a little bit of it, but it's like pouring a little water on a big fire.
Wow.
If you've been all your life, if you've been eating meat, then your body is over acidic. You need to reset your whole system. That means that you need to stop for 3 weeks eating the meat, eating the dairy, eating the cooked food, and just flush your system. Now, this is what's going to happen. You might have some discomfort during the cleanse.
Yeah, those toxins got to get out.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not going to feel good.
Your body efficiently stores poison to keep it out of your way so that you can live your life. But here's the thing. Everyone has to go through the rites of passage. You're either going to go through the elimination confrontation of toxic waste and poisons voluntarily under the control of a cleanse, or you're going to go through it involuntary at the onset of a disease.
Okay.
So
we get to choose our discomfort.
We get to choose. We didn't know we had a choice.
Right.
But you're going to have it one way or another. It's a little bit, it's better when you go through it through the cleanse because we mitigate it. We make it less uncomfortable.
So Albert, this morning, man, I'm curious. Which way you going to choose, brother?
I already made my decision when I've been listening all morning. I'm definitely going the detox way so I can get off of. I was a dialysis patient for 5 years, and I received a kidney, and I got.
It's okay. It's okay, man. You detoxing right now, man. Let it out.
Yeah,
Real men cry.
And also, I want to save my brothers and my family, because my brothers are going through health issues with the same issues. We inherited, I guess, of our family, like you say, eating all this barbecue and fish and, Thai and beef. I mean, and it just piled up on them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have to save each other. And when I save myself, I'll also save my family and my loved ones.
Exactly.
I'm definitely on the program. If it costs me my life, that's where I'm at.
I love it.
Exactly.
Because without life, you have nothing. I know people with lots and lots of money, billionaires, and don't have life.
Exactly. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. One of the things that we don't do is we don't look at ourselves.
Okay.
We don't really, and I can tell you this, I have clients who I put them through an exercise where I say, look in the mirror. Like, look in the mirror for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. A lot of them like, I never looked at myself that long. We don't, when you said we don't know ourselves, like many of us, we only know a version of ourselves or a default version of ourselves. Brother, what you said was so true. Because, Rebecca, what I would say to you is do a full scan of yourself. Look at yourself. You get out that shower, don't just jump, it's you. You don't have to be embarrassed. So you look at you. And really make an evaluation of who you are, where you are, and it's likely in that place where you'll begin to see, okay, these are the things I need to work on. They want to know the impact of weight or maybe being overweight on someone's health.
Oh, I mean, that's probably obvious, because obviously if you're gaining weight, that's also a sign. That's a sign of underlying issues. That's a sign of a clogged colon. Which leads to a whole list of things. And also you have to understand that your body doesn't recognize foreign substances, it can't process it, it can't assimilate it, and it can't eliminate it, so it stores it.
Right.
Well, one of the things it stores waste in is in fat tissue. So the extra weight gain is nothing but stored waste in your body. Your body is trying to prevent it from getting into the circulation system.
Yeah.
It's trying to protect you. So the weight gain is nothing but stored waste. That's why when you detoxify your body and you remove the waste, it liquefies the fat and you get back to your ideal weight.
So weight gain is nothing but
stored waste.
Wow. I didn't even realize that. I just always thought it was fat, man.
Well, it is fat. They call it adipose tissue, which is basically fat tissue.
Fat tissue, but basically that fat is composed of waste and toxins. And
not only that, but it's also where insulin is stored, excessive insulin. So the sweets triggering all the insulin, which leads to diabetes, actually causes you to start gaining weight, but it also clogs up the liver. That's why people have a fatty liver. Now, the liver is so important, which I'm going to answer one of your questions before you even ask it.
Organs.
Brain, heart, liver.
Wow. Okay.
You thought it was the gut, but it's not. But if that liver is not clean, it's not going to matter what's going on in the gut.
That's true, because the liver is part of the filtering system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the heart and brain is important because in order to shift stress, the heart and the brain has to be in perfect coherence. If they're not in coherence, it doesn't matter what's going on in the body, because you can't work the digestive system if you're in stress. You can't work the immune system when you're in stress. So you need the heart and the brain in harmony. They need to be communicating with each other properly. When you're under stress, they're not.
So I heard three things. In order for us to really optimize our health, one, we have to be psychologically inept, meaning that I'm doing brain exercises. I know how not to react. You talked about that. But I know how to proact. All right, so that's one. Like constantly, we talked about that last week, right? Knowing, like practicing really getting that blood flow to the prefrontal cortex of the mind. Then the heart. So the heart is incredibly important as well, making sure that's in sync with my mind.
Exactly.
So that way I can control my stress.
Exactly. In fact, your heart is 5,000 times more magnetic than your brain and 100 times more electric than your brain. Wow. Your brain is not the headquarters. The heart is.
So ancient Kemet had it right.
Mm-hmm.
They had it right. They're like, hey, okay.
That's why the scripture says, as a man thinketh where?
In his heart.
Get it. You see?
In his heart.
If that heart is not right, then the body is not going to be right. You're a sum total of every thought that you've ever had to this very day. Mm-hmm. The problem is 90% of those thoughts are subconscious.
Hey, and here's the other thing. There's data that says 80% of those thoughts are negative.
You know what? That's right. Some people say 70, but it doesn't matter. That means the majority of the thoughts you can't see are negative. What does that mean? And you got to get this part. That means if as a man thinketh in his heart, which mind controls your heart? The conscious mind or the subconscious mind? Subconscious. So if your subconscious mind controls the heart and 90% of your mind is in the subconscious and 70% to 80 is negative, then your whole life is on autopilot towards disaster.
Man, that right there should be a scripture, what you just said. Because what I just heard is the power of the subconscious mind in a couple of sentences. It's something I talk about all the time. Inputs, watch your inputs, watch what's going on. Mm-hmm. But part of it is because what I hear you saying is we have to guard the mind, guard the heart,
guard the gut.
And guard the gut. What are some things I should do to take care of my liver?
Well, first of all, it's about first stopping the damage of the liver. Not about doing. See, we're into doing, but it's about taking away.
Yeah. And
then I heard a saying that talked about perfection. Perfection is not the adding of something; it's the taking away of it. Mm-hmm. So we were born perfect, and then we start adding stuff.
Yeah.
So now we're in the point we have to start taking away.
Okay.
And we have to get back to where we originally were. In other words, we have to reset everything.
So, Doc, what do I take away to restore my liver?
You have to detoxify that liver. There is no way around it. It has to be detoxed, and not just a liver detox, because if you just detox the liver, then those toxins go into the kidneys. If you go do a kidney cleanse, then those toxins go into the liver. You have to do a full body cleanse. You have to detoxify the liver, kidneys, clean out the gut. You have to clear out the mucus. You have to kill the parasites. And you have to flood the body with nutrition.
Wait. Folks got parasites?
If you're a meat eater, you're dealing with parasites.
Ooh. You mean like stuff that's alive?
Stuff that's alive. You're feeding these parasites. That's why a lot of people are dealing with vitamin and mineral deficiency.
Because the parasites
they're
are
feeding
taking
the parasites, yes.
Parasites are taking all their vitamins.
They're either feeding the parasites or it's not getting into the bloodstream because of the excessive mucus from the cooked food and the dairy.
Wow. And a cleanse, you're saying a cleanse, will that help I could rid myself of parasites potentially?
Exactly. We kill them. And in fact, one of the products we have is called a parasite mucus buster. So we're addressing the parasites and the mucus. You see, after years of scanning, after years of helping people, and after years of observation, I've realized what the body needs to get back to its ideal health. First leading cause of death, as we know it, is what? Heart disease?
Yep.
Second leading cause, as we know it, cancer.
Yep.
Do you know what the third leading cause of death is in America? And I'm talking to you, the caller.
Oh, he's off now.
Oh.
Go ahead and tell us.
Okay.
Go ahead and tell us.
So the third leading cause of death in America that caters to that number that he just said is a term called iatrogenic. IATRO, if you want to look it up. Iatrogenic. That means death from medical error and medical treatment. Death from medical error and medical treatment is the third leading cause of death in America. It's not being reported. When you cut on the news, you're looking at what happened in the black neighborhood, but you're not looking at the deaths that happened in the hospital.
They're not telling you how many people died in the hospital.
And I can validate this because I worked in the ER and I witnessed it. But because I worked there, I stayed quiet like everybody else.
Yeah, makes sense.
I saw a family come in. They brought their father in, and he was alive, and he supposedly had gotten stabilized, but they left to go get something to eat. When they came back, he was dead.
Wow.
They thought maybe it was because of the complications that caused him to come in. But no, it was because there was an inaccurate drip put on him.
Oh, man.
You see?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that all the doctors are bad. No, there are good doctors out there. They're just a part of a system that does not serve our health. What is the root word of health? Heal. This healthcare system as we know it is not designed to heal the body. So why are we calling it health care? Let's call it what it is, crisis care. If you call it crisis care, that would wake people up. It will take the healing out of their subconscious, and it will put it into the proper perspective. Holistic health eradicates the condition, and it heals the body.
Right.
So what am I doing? I'm dividing up the healthcare system. One system is crisis care, and one system is health care. So now people can finally have a choice.
Gotcha.
We never had a choice.
Yeah.
It was only one system, and that's how we treat it.
Most of us know to go to crisis care for everything. And most of us know that, hey, if something does go wrong, then I go to the hospital for my crisis.
That's what we were trained to do.
Yeah.
But it turns out that the medication is just as toxic as anything else.
Can we talk about medication real quick? One of the questions I got on the Facebook stream was, why are so many kidney dialysis companies springing up in our communities? And I believe I know the answer to that, but I want to talk about medicine real quick because I believe that I'll get to that. And so we talked about the gut. We talked about the gut having these myobiomes and things like that, right? The bacteria, the viruses. And then I know for the most part, if you go to most doctors, MDs, and you say, hey, I got this going on in my body, some type of infection, one of the first things they do is prescribe you an antibiotic.
Right.
That's just one medicine.
Right.
And then, of course, you have, your regular over-the-counter aspirin, Tylenols, Claritins, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What impact are these medicines having on our bodies, or in particular the gut?
Well, let's do the most common one, which is antibiotics. Antibiotics actually destroy the microbiome. It destroys the gut flora that keeps us alive. Those microorganisms, that bacteria in your gut.
But don't I need the antibiotic? I mean, I have a urinary tract infection, Doc.
Well, let me tell you this: if you take an antibiotic, then you should take a probiotic with it.
Okay. If
you take an antibiotic, and a lot of people aren't doing this because if you understand what probiotics are, then you wouldn't even be taking the antibiotic. But the antibiotic kills off good bacteria and bad bacteria. So the antibiotic will kill off what it's targeting.
Right.
It's like chemo and radiation. Chemo and radiation may kill the
all.
cancer, but it's killing everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So the antibiotic is going to kill off the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and then you find yourself dependent upon the antibiotic because now your gut flora is not working anymore.
Oh, man.
Because you're no longer dependent on your natural gut flora. You're dependent on the antibiotic. But what happens? Now your body becomes resistant to the antibiotic. Now you're in trouble because now your gut flora is undeveloped. You're resistant to the antibiotic. What are you going to do now to get well?
Wow, so that's a setup for disease.
It's a setup for death.
What would be the number one thing you would say to us as we begin to close the show that we should focus on, that we can really lock in on this to begin taking control of our health?
Well, I'm going to ask everyone, one of the things you need to do is find out what your blood type is.
I like that.
Find out what your blood type is because not everyone knows their blood type.
Yep.
And the reason we don't know our blood types is because we don't know how important or our blood type is to what we're eating. We always understood it from, blood transfusion or blood draw or giving blood. But we never knew that based upon what our blood type is, there are certain foods that are compatible with your chemistry,
right,
and incompatible.
That's right.
And we're talking about 16 food groups.
Man, and when you see that list, because I've seen my list, and your mouth will drop.
Exactly.
Your mouth will drop and say, wow, I've been eating this.
And then this is why it's important. You got to get this. Tune in to this. This is important. I tell everybody this because you won't hear it anywhere else. In 2020, the reason that people were dying because of the COVID virus was not because of the virus. It was because of a hyperactive immune system. It was the immune system killing people in 2020, not the virus. The virus was triggering a hyperactive immune system. Now, the question is, how did it get hyperactive? Because if you're eating all these different foods that your body is identifying as an enemy, then what does it do to the immune system? It triggers it.
Yeah.
If you're triggering your immune system over and over again, what are you doing to it? You're wearing it out.
Man.
It's
like
the boy who cried wolf, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
And now when the virus shows up that it should, it comes out spraying like Scarface, but it turns on you.
Oh man, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
It's spraying all over the place.
So in other words, if you never knew your blood type, that means that you've been eating in the dark. So when 2020 showed up, your immune system was so hyperactive. When the virus showed up, it caused what's called a cytokine storm. A cytokine storm attacks the lungs, and that's why people were being put on ventilators. And let me say this real quick. That was the reason why President Trump at the time was pushing hydrochloroquine, because hydrochloroquine is an immunosuppressant drug. You see, why would we be trying to suppress our immune system during a pandemic? You should be trying to build your immune system. But because it wasn't the virus, it was the human immune system killing people.
And let me put this together. And part of the reason the human immune system was killing us was because it was already overreactive. And part of the reason it was already overreactive is because our gut health is off.
Exactly.
Our liver is not healthy.
Exactly.
And that's because of the toxins and poisons we're putting into our bodies, mostly through the high protein meats we eat.
Exactly.
And the dairy.
Exactly.
This is why I named the show Self-Love. Because to me, this is a self-love conversation. And a lot of people might say, well, you should have had a massage therapist in the studio or, a nail technician in the studio, because that's what when we think about self-love, those are the things we think about, right? But I just want to really let us know, one day from Valentine's Day, all this love in the air, that Dr. Prince, thank you for coming in and teaching us how to properly love ourselves, man. I really appreciate your presence here this morning.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I definitely would love to come back, because it is. It's a series.
Oh, we're gonna have you back, man. I got ideas. Like, one of the things I'm like. So you told me when we were having the conversation that everyone should do at a minimum at least 2 cleanses a year.
At least.
And so one of the things I like to do is maybe have you on, and as a group, as a tribe, right? We all go through the cleanse. People can call in and have questions. We're going through the cleanse together,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
And so that's one idea I have. So we're gonna do some things, man, to get our community right.
And that's the revolution right there.
Yeah, that's the revolution. Because when we're healthy, that's what they don't want. Because, boy, then your mind is clear. Your stress is down, the creativity goes up, and everything goes up with it, man.